Thank you all for showing up this evening. This is the regular meeting of the Terre Haute City Council. It is about 10 after 6, Thursday, June 7th, 2018. We begin all of our regular meetings with a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. And this evening, Councilwoman Crossan will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Michelle.
Councilperson Aller.
Here.
Councilperson Azar.
Here.
Councilperson Crossan.
Present.
Councilperson DeBond.
Here.
Councilperson Elliott.
Here.
Councilperson Garrison.
Here.
Councilperson Morris.
Here.
Councilperson Nasser.
Present.
Councilperson Nation.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. I am going to go ahead and state that when we get to the items on the agenda after public comments, I intend to move resolutions 5 and 7 to the top of the list. Having said that, now we have 30 minutes set aside for public comments. If anybody from the audience wishes to speak on any items that are not on the agenda tonight, now is your time to do so. Please try and limit your time to about 3 minutes or so, if you would. Thank you. And give your name and address for the record. Can you step up, please?
My name is Donald Hyde. I live at 1411 Poplar. Once again, first of all, let me make it clear that I have noticed that the county and the city is starting to inform the public a little bit more than they have been lately. However, with that said, there's a lot more to inform the public about. And again, my main concern about this is how do we vote for anybody? How do we decide we even want to vote? Right now, the number one problem we have in this county, and I consider this number one of all problems, is apathy. Apathy begins with our leadership. The public doesn't feel that they're being heard, and the concerns are being dealt with, or anything like that. They become apathetic. And we've done that for a long time, so that the voters don't even show up to the polls and vote in the primary or even the fall election. Now, why is that? I'll tell you why. You're not communicating. The city council, the county council, the mayor is not communicating to the public what the issues should be or what they want to accomplish and how they're going to accomplish it, what it'll cost, whatever. None of that's even done at the beginning level. I remember a time when that was done. We would have debates about it. Whether you agreed with it or not, at least you knew somebody cared about something, and therefore there wasn't as much apathy. The reason I keep saying, and I've said all the time I've showed up here, and every time, kick the can down the road, that is a form of saying that we're apathetic. We're only concerned what big business wants or what we can use to make money for the city, not what we can do to help the citizens. I got news for you. Add up all the employees in this government, city government. You will not come up with 1,000 people. And I'm even tossing in the school board to this. Now, there are over 60,000 citizens. So you're going to tell me the concerns of maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people, all we care about, we're not going to care about or talk to or hear anybody else's concerns? The reason I point this out is I'm actually not as mad at the city council as I'm at the school board. We're going behind everybody's back and deciding what the qualifications for the highest paid employee of the school corporation is going to be and who gets that job. They didn't ask anybody. Oh, I'm sorry, they did. They asked the heads of the universities, the 5 colleges I talked about. They asked the head of some other group. Nobody else got to even weigh in on what we're looking for. They invested 11, they only had 11 candidates were qualified for this job out of the entire nation? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. And I don't think any voters are either. And I really feel concerned for the school board, current school board, when it comes up to election day. Because I know I'm not going to vote for them for that reason alone. They better hold up and let the public be informed of who this person is. Because he's going to be the highest paid tax person in the county. And everybody's taxes are paying him. But we don't know who he is, what he believes in, and how he's going to improve our schools. We have not one answer to any question we could all raise. And I believe every one of you, the mayor, everybody else in this town, has some questions they'd like to ask. How the schools can be improved, and what his priorities are going to be. None of that has been asked or answered. And that's what I mean by apathy. When everybody in elected office, I'm almost done. When everybody in elected office, be it city, mayor, school board, or county council, just already assumes, we'll do it our way, and we won't inform anybody of our things. And that way, we buy some insurance in case something goes wrong. That doesn't help get things better, nor does it explain where our money goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak during public comment? Okay. Having said that, we will move on. Corrections to the journal.
There are none.
Communication from the mayor.
Not tonight.
Reports from city officials.
There are none.
Reports from Board of Public Works and Safety.
There are none.
Reports from standing committees.
There are none.
Reports from non-standing committees.
I don't believe there are any.
Okay. At this point, we will go ahead and move on to resolutions 5 and 7. So resolution 5.
Resolution 5, 2018, authorizing the submission of the 2018 annual consolidated plan.
Petitioner.
Mr. President, members of the council, Phil Kessner with the Department of Redevelopment. This is a resolution to authorize the mayor to submit for our entitlement grants from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. This year, the Congress didn't pass the budget until later, so instead of being here in January, we had to wait till our figures were released. A copy was included with your packets that shows the plan and the projected use of funds. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Is there anybody in the audience who has a question on Resolution 5, 2018? Council, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Again, with my point about trying to inform the public of what's actually going on, so we don't have to have college degrees in business or finance to understand what you're talking about. I got a question for the gentleman, sir. How many houses are we going to build? How many low-cost houses are going to be built for sale? Where are they going to be built? And what's the odds of the average working-class person or family being able to afford to buy one of them?
With the limited amount of funds, there'll probably be between 5 and 7 homes, depending on the bids that come in. They'll all be, people that rent those have to be at least 60% or lower of the median income, so they are affordable housing. The sites are yet to be determined based on what nonprofits we work with. The city has sites throughout the city that they've acquired through different reasons, so they'll be built in existing neighborhoods to try to revitalize those areas.
Council.
Mr. President,
Councilman Nation.
I've got just a couple of quick procedural questions. First is, I understand that you've moved these up the agenda. That no longer requires any action of the council. That's something that the president can just do now, right?
That is my understanding.
Good. Is this the first time we've done that since the rules have changed?
It is, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because I remember having the opportunity to vote on whether or not things would get moved around in the agenda in the past.
Mm-hmm.
The other procedural question is, with this, if we want to vote on this tonight, do we need to do I need to make a motion so that we can vote tonight?
No, it's a resolution, so.
So it can just be, I can just move to approve, which, if there are no further questions, I would move to approve resolution number 5, 2018.
Second.
It has been moved by Councilman Nation, seconded by Councilwoman Crossen, that we approve Resolution 5, 2018. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Michelle.
Resolution 7, 2018, authorizing a temporary revolving loan from the Terre Haute Redevelopment Commission. You have a proposed amendment before you.
Petitioner.
Mr. President, members of the council, Mayor Dupennant, Attorney Eddie Felling will talk to you about the amendments, the few minor changes that were made to the original resolution. But I wanted just to spend just a few minutes with you and walk through the document I handed out to you. It should be paper clipped together, and it says Resolution Number 7, Executive Summary. So just as a reminder of what this is for, when we did our loan last year, it went two things. One is, we did the loan last year, and it's due and payable at the end of this month. $5 million loan from the Department of Redevelopment. What I'd said last year is that we would reduce that borrowing amount. We thought it would probably get us down to $2 million, and that's where we're at with this particular resolution. So things played out the way we believed that they would, and so we can reduce our borrowing from the Department of Redevelopment. Even though that is no-cost borrowing to us, the council made it very clear to us they'd prefer to do the tax anticipation warrant and leave the redevelopment funds alone. So there's a couple of attachments I want to walk you through just quickly here. If you go to the first one, which is A, these are the same general documents that I'd given you last year to walk us through a couple of scenarios. The first one is the cash pool analysis. And so when we talk about cash pools, Councilman Nasser and others, this is the pool that I mentioned earlier, general fund, edit, and a lot of the smaller funds. And so our pool means those funds are kept in a series of bank accounts in Fundware. It is a fund. And so that's where we manage our cash. So there's nothing creative, there's nothing unique, and I've given you a list before, and I'll be happy to do that again in the future of what funds are included in that, but it's the big ones are probably the general fund and edit would be the two biggest. If you look at the bottom line, really, the cash pool ending balances beginning July 31st and then going across to December 31st. This is what our cash pool balances would be without a new redevelopment loan. So we pay the money back, and then we do not take out a loan if you decide not to do this. Be $4.2 million at the end of July, $800,000 August, about $1 million in September, a little under $1 million, or a negative, almost $1 million in October, a little over a negative $1 million in November, and then jump up to nearly $6 million when we get our tax disbursement in December. So that'll just show you the cash flows without the loan. The next page, B, shows you the $2 million loan that we're requesting versus the $5 million loan that we took out in the past, and shows our ending pool cash balances of being $6.2 million, $2.8 million, $3 million, $1.2 million, $614,000, and then $6 million at the end of December. So for the same reasons we've done these type of loans in the past, is to balance that cash, those dips in our cash, leading up to the distributions we get. So the purpose of the loan, obviously, is for that, as we've discussed, for several years now. We're reducing the amount by $3 million. Schedule C that you have are the two redevelopment funds that we're borrowing the money from. The top one is State Road 46, and the bottom one is the Central Business District or the Downtown TIF District. I know there's a little bit more detail on here, but that's just kind of the report we have for redevelopment. You can follow along the bottom line, so to really just look at the ending cash under each of those. So in the top section, 1.8 million, 1.3 million, 569,000, 568, 567, 491, and then end the year with $1.7 million. So in that cash flow are the projects that redevelopment is doing this year, about $1 million worth of work. It includes their debt service and all their salaries and benefits and other operating expenses for the Department of Redevelopment, and with us borrowing $500,000 from the State Road 46 TIF, and then paying that back late in December of the year. The bottom one, the Central Business District downtown, 4.9, about $5 million, a little bit lower than $5 million for July, $4.5 million for August, $4.5 million in September, $4.5 million in October, $4.5 million in November, and then almost $7 million at the end of December for an ending cash balance for this fund. That includes the projects they're doing, same operating expenses, and their bond obligations for their debt service. So obviously giving them $3 million back is a good thing for them. They're just going to have more cash in the bank, but then it allows them to begin to plan for 2019 and 2020 and beyond. And so they're able to accomplish the goals that they need to do. The last addendum I have here is an email that I received from Steve Whitdale in communication about this, attending the director of our Department of Development. And I'm not going to read that to you. You can read it at your leisure. But he understands this, supports it, and they are good with what we're doing. It's going to allow them to do everything they need to do. And I'm very comfortable with the $2 million loan from the $500,000 and the $1.5 million breakdown between those two TIF funds. So I just want to provide that to you for the support. Steve cannot be here tonight. He's at a dinner that I'm going to. It started at 6 o'clock. I usually represent the city there. But he wanted to communicate that so I could get that in front of you. So, kind of the bottom line is that we ask for your support in doing this loan. The Redevelopment Commission will take this up at their next meeting next week, or the next meeting they have, to do this after your action. And so I'm asking you tonight to approve this resolution for a loan, and we continue to follow our plan, is basically what we're doing. My goal is that next year, it's very possible we will not need to borrow any money from redevelopment, but let's wait and see how it goes. I know it won't be any more than $2 million for 6 months of next year, and I'm pretty certain that at the end of that 6 months of next year that we'll be able to be at zero. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Is there anybody in the audience who has a question on Resolution 7, 2018?
Again, with the idea of, again, not having a master's degree in economics or a master's degree in building, I would like to ask the mayor, the money he's going to build, again, I don't see a problem with 46. I'm sure they can figure a way around it because the money amounts that they use is way past this. However, the city, that $1.5 million from the city downtown area to redevelop it, that's all based, I believe, on construction. My question is this: I can understand and approve of you giving it back to them in January. The problem is this: in this year, 18, without that money, what projects won't get built before winter? Because most construction happens in the summer and the fall, not the dead of winter.
Council, in response to that, redevelopment has a list of projects they would like to do. They have a wish list, a big list of things that they want to do. They can only do so many projects each year because of, obviously you have to design it, then you got to put it out to bid, and then you do the project. Everything that they had planned to do this year, they are doing. And everything that they will plan to do next year, they will be doing. So it's based on their schedule, and the downtown TIF, even with us borrowing money out of it, they still have $5 million of cash available to them after all these expenses. If they wanted to do another project this year, if they could pull it off, they could do that. That would be their discretion and their approval to make that happen. So we have no issue at all.
Any other questions from the audience? Council. Councilman Nasser.
Mayor, I know you gave a spreadsheet of the cash balances and where our shortfalls would be. But one of the things that I noticed about the amendment, could you clarify what the amendment is going to be on Resolution 7? What's the amendment?
Eddie?
Council, Eddie Felling, City Attorney. There is an amendment before you we'd ask be passed prior to any action being taken on the resolution. You'll notice there's several minor changes to the document. There's really only one substantive change. Earlier this week, I had a discussion with council for the Redevelopment Commission. The consensus was the original resolution had a built-in extension that would go all the way to June of next year. There'd be an automatic extension in December. It would go to June. To keep us on the same track and with the development we've had with the sanitary, the exact same resolution, it's very similar with regard to the temporary loan. We're going to keep these on a similar track. So this is really backing it up instead of automatically going all the way to June. It'd have to be, we'd have to come back before the council in November for an extension.
Was that the only one? Only change?
That's the only substantive change. You'll notice on the second page of the document, there's a subsection B that's added. That has to do with what funds or what monies from redevelopment could be touched with regard to the loan. This is already followed and has been in the past. It's some old language from our original resolution we passed. We just put it in there to make sure we were consistent moving forward.
Well, one of the big changes I noticed, I remember last February, we had a special call on a Tuesday afternoon to do this redevelopment loans, and one of the perceptions that was put out there is that it was an emergency, that vendors' payroll might not be paid. Is there a change on here that says the council does not find an emergency exists to extend the loan authorized by this resolution into fiscal year 2019? I see that's been striked out.
Correct. The only purpose for anything with, that references an emergency situation has to do with when a loan is extended outside the calendar year in which it's originally drawn upon. Because the way it's drafted in the amendment, would be repaid in full before December 31st of this calendar year. None of that language is necessary. When we come back in November, that language will be back in the resolution.
Okay, so if we didn't authorize this loan, what would happen? Mayor?
Well, you can look at...
I see the numbers, but what would happen? Would we not pay vendors? Would we not make payroll?
Well, when we get into the November timeframe, we'll be short on cash out of this pool.
Okay, speaking of vendors, I know we're updating our software. When will that be available where we can get an aging report for our vendors?
As soon as we get the system up and completely running. We're working on getting payroll converted over right now. It's probably still going to be a few weeks.
Do you think the next time we renew this loan that we would be able to have that information?
Oh, absolutely. We got to have it for the budget cycle here.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's been, as I stated in the email that I sent to the council a little while back, we had to convert all the data from 2003 into the new system. We got that completed through 17. Now we're working on 18.
Well, I look forward to seeing that aging report once it's available. I yield.
Let me just say, what you'll find on the aging report is we pay all of our bills within about 30 days. So it'll be a great report. Look forward to it.
Mr. President.
Councilman Crossen.
It's a little bit off the subject, but going on from Councilman Nasser, I look forward to seeing that too. In fact, I look forward to seeing any report on the financial condition of the city from you. We haven't had reports for months now.
And I've not had any reports.
Pardon?
And I've not had any reports either.
And I don't understand why that's okay with you. It's not okay with me.
I'll be happy to answer that.
Please do.
Have you ever been through a software conversion of a
I have.
financial system? I've done about 30 in my life, for my previous life, and they're a pain in the butt. They really are. They're very challenging, especially with the old system that we have. It's not very flexible. It is, it's hard-coded, our system is, and there's not a lot of flexibility. So without us hiring a staff of programmers, we're doing that through our own channels. We have all of our data entered in for January, February, and March. So I could run your report right now and show you out of Fundware what we've spent except for payroll and benefits. Because when we went to ADP in January, that data has to be converted into Fundware for me to run those early year reports. We have to go back and re-enter everything into the new system, which we're in the process of doing. So the report you would get would not be 100% accurate. And I'm not going to put out any public reports that I'll be held accountable by the Tribune Star or any other entities until they're 100% accurate. And as soon as that's done, you're going to get them. You'll probably get January, February, and March all at one time,
And when will that be?
probably within the next 2 weeks. But once we get the ADP data into Fundware, and it doesn't work right, it doesn't match up. Some of the accounts come 5 cents off, 10 cents off. It has to be 100% accurate.
Well, I just find it difficult as being, our job here at this table is to be the fiscal body for this community and for this city, and it's very difficult to feel like you're doing an adequate job when you don't have any financial reports for this long a period of time. And I would imagine that that's difficult for the department heads and others who are trying to keep track of where they are in this year's spending and their planning for future events. So the sooner the better.
Absolutely. That's how to run an organization, you need that data. So we know we're under budget right now. I mean, I've got data. I just have to merge it together and package it and piece it together. When we put it out to the public, it will be an accurate, 100% accurate financial report. I would just ask you to keep in mind that by statute, the administration is required to provide one financial report annually to the city council. One, a final report. We provide almost 200 pages a month. Once we get on a new system, you'll get the same stuff, plus some cash flows, some accounts payable things. We're going to be able to do so much more with this system than we couldn't do with the old system. And so you're going to get that data, and you're going to continue to get that data, and I need that data. And so as soon as we can get it out, you're going to have it.
Well, the statute may only require one a year, but I doubt that there's any city council in the state that would be satisfied with one a year. And I certainly, as a city council person, am not satisfied with that, and find it most difficult to make decisions on things like the resolution before us tonight and others without having those reports. So I didn't mean to co-opt this time for that, but I didn't think there was going to be another opportunity tonight to ask you that question. Back to Resolution 7, I do have just a statement about it. I am glad to see us going this direction with getting this TIF money back to the TIF districts. It's not really fast enough for me, but I did want to just say something about a way in which this is characterized, and that is to characterize borrowing from this fund as no-cost borrowing. I really don't agree with that characterization. I do know that there's not interest involved, and I assume that's what you're referring to when you say no-cost borrowing. Mm-hmm. But borrowing from these funds does clearly have a cost to this community, and that is the cost of things not getting done in TIF districts where the money was dedicated or supposed to be dedicated for use. And so that's why I think the city council has insisted that this money get back to the TIF districts, and again, a step in the right direction. But I, for one, as a city council, will continue to insist that we get back to what you say may happen in 2019, because this money was never intended for this use. I yield.
Councilman Nasser.
Mayor, I just want to go back to the software and to the staffing. I just want to make it perfectly clear that I understand everybody in the controller's office is working very hard to enter the information. But to voice the same concern that Councilwoman Crossan has, you've come before us, or the administration's come before us to ask us to do a loan for the sanitary district, as well to do a redevelopment loan. But we seem to get information for that, but then we're not able to get information on a timely manner throughout the months.
Because we had to create these reports. These are just done in Excel based on us pulling all the pieces together. I can't run a report off the system right now. Just can't do it. We're getting close.
Councilman Elliott.
Yes, I had the opportunity to talk with Steve Witt briefly this morning about this issue, because I had a meeting with him about another issue, and I, I encouraged him to get rolling and do some of these things that they want to do. And he mentioned he would be reaching out to certain council members involved in more involved in the downtown, but I'm sure he'd talk to any of us. They're going to pull their list out, prioritize it, get some input from specific council members, and get rolling. And that's what that money's for. And I think we can all look forward to what will happen. Yield.
Councilman Nation.
Mr. Mayor, you mentioned that by statute, only one financial report is required per year. That may be the case at the state level, but I'm sure you remember under the leadership of President John Mulliken about 3 or 4 years ago, because of our frustration with, our collective frustration in this council with not getting timely financial information, we passed a local rule that said that we would get monthly financial reports. That wasn't done with the council just mandating it, saying this is what you're going to do. That was done with you, with your participation and your cooperation. You remember that, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So I get it that that the state only requires one, but locally we've all agreed that we're going to do 12.
I'd like
You
more than
acknowledge
that. And I'd like more than that. So as soon as we get the system up, we'll be able to do even more than we could in the past. And if I could do it tonight, you'd have it in front of you.
Thanks, I yield.
President Devon,
Councilman Garrison.
I'm excited that we are borrowing less from redevelopment. I'm glad to see those projects continue that are on the books. Being in District 5, I don't have any TIF districts, but downtown TIF and Highway 46 TIF, I think we all benefit from those, so I'm glad to see those continue on. We can make motions tonight, so I will go ahead and do that. I think we need to amend first, so I'll make a motion to amend Resolution 7, 2018 as presented.
Second.
Has been moved by Councilman Garrison, seconded by Councilman Morris, that we amend Resolution 7, 2018. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
It is amended.
President Bond,
Councilman Garrison.
I can make a motion to approve Resolution 7, 2018 as amended.
Second.
Has been moved by Councilman Garrison, seconded by Councilman Morris, that we approve Resolution 7, 2018 as amended. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Councilperson Aller.
Yes.
Councilperson Azar.
Yes.
Councilperson Crossan.
No.
Councilperson Elliott.
Yes.
Councilperson Garrison.
Yes.
Councilperson Morris.
Yes.
Councilperson Nation.
No.
Councilperson Nasser.
No.
Councilperson Devon.
Yes.
That is 6 yes, 3 no.
All right, Resolution 7 as amended passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if you have an agenda in front of you, we are now going, where are we going? Yes, okay, we will be going to Special Ordinance 5, 2018. Michelle, please.
Special Ordinance 5, 2018, rezoning a property located at 601 South Root Ridge. This was previously tabled, and it was favorable recommendation with conditions.
Petitioner.
Mr. President and members of the council, my name is Bill Ola. I'm the attorney representing the petitioner here. As stated, this was tabled at the May meeting, and I'd like to report that beginning at 7 a.m. the morning after that, I received a call from Brian Payne, who spoke before you at the last meeting, and by 7:14 we had begun work on this. I think we worked nonstop on it ever since. This afternoon, we, after a lot of dialogue, meetings, emails, phone calls, personal meetings, and discussing a whole host of topics, with the people that expressed the most interest, at least it came to the neighborhood meetings, the people in Beaumont itself, and then across Adam Street, which is one of the other edges where there are houses that are in eyesight of this project. We reached we reached a written agreement that, in essence, if this thing is rezoned and it passes and Mr. Anderson ends up with the property, he's pledged to do, basically, I can condense it down to maybe 7 things that various of the residents and Anderson worked out. I can just briefly note that the setback of the condo units along Poplar Street are going to be increased by 6 feet more than the minimum in order to save some existing trees along that edge of the property. The developers will pay for a sidewalk along the east side of Adams Street across the whole frontage of the parcel, and we've pledged to ask NDOT for permission to even extend that sidewalk on the south side further into the State Road 42 right-of-way. If they'll permit that, then we've pledged to do that too. We're going to increase by 20 feet more than the minimum the setback on the north side of the property, and that's basically the boundary with the existing Beaumont Phase 1 subdivision along the 2 lots where there are existing homes. Not the whole thing from the ditch to Adam Street, but where there are 2 homes, that setback will be increased to 25 feet. To do that, the developers got permission from the lender to downsize 2 buildings, 4 units, so that we kind of call them skinny buildings. They're not as deep front to back. They're 10 feet shorter in depth, so that pulls it 10 feet. Those 2 buildings will be pulled 10 feet further away from the existing homes. The developer is going to contribute $12,000 toward fencing that the Beaumont folks chose, and that fence will be constructed along 4 lots that share the boundary with the condominium units. 3 of them have existing homes, and 1 is an extra side yard lot to another home. The existing covenants for the single-family homes, the Beaumont part, they have no design criteria, no objective criteria, and if Mr. Anderson becomes the owner, he's pledged to give Dick Wheatfield, one of the existing homeowners, a seat at the table on the kind of, for lack of a better term, the architectural design committee. If the builder or any other buyer of a lot wants to build a home on these unbuilt lots, they will work through and either design or work with the builder or the owner as to what type, size, characteristics, location of that home, where it'll be located. And then finally, they agreed to establish a certain minimum size of home that can be built in that part. There's a ground floor minimum and an upper story minimum. That's kind of, there were lots of other things talked about and not agreed to. There's no perfect solution, I understand that, but I think we've gone a long, long way toward getting to at least some common ground. Again, I don't want to repeat things that were said before that you probably already know, but I guess I would just close by suggesting that, like I pointed out before, there seem to be a lot of economic development merits for this. The housing market in our city seems to demand, or at least have a great appetite for these units. There are not enough of the condominiums of this size and this kind of price range to fit that need. It adds quite a bit of assessed value to cities' property tax rolls. It'll benefit a lot of local residents and craftsmen and contractors and subcontractors. I guess I'll close by just saying that Mr. Anderson would ask for your support in passing this rezoning resolution. Take any questions if there are any.
Is there anybody from the audience who would like to speak on Special Ordinance 5, 2018? And please remember to give your name and address for the record.
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Brian Payne, 353 Adams Boulevard. And thank you for the opportunity to speak, which will hopefully be one last time on Special Ordinance Number 5. And I wanted to start this first for the council, for the record, and mostly for all of my neighbors, to briefly acknowledge the magnitude of the change that will result from this rezoning. Unfortunately, you cannot remove 15 acres of woods that are either right behind your home or across the street from dozens of homes without seeing something significant lost in your neighborhood. Second, I want to point out that you cannot add 74 dwelling units to an area of this size in this neighborhood and not impact some local streets. And in the past, traffic study has been referenced, and it is correct that if you look at just the major intersections, the impacts are pretty marginal, single digits or less. But what that study overlooks, and the shortcoming of it, which I went back and looked at, if you look at just the raw data for Adams Boulevard, where the main entrance and exit to this development will be, isolate just the existing traffic counts. I did the same forecasting that the model did using standard methods. And what you see on my street on Adams Boulevard is actually a 40% increase in peak AM traffic for the morning rush hour and a 60% increase in afternoon rush hour. And I share those examples simply to acknowledge that my neighbors' concerns are real, they're valid, and data and common sense do support them. In short, the condo development will fundamentally alter our neighborhood. Now, Bill mentioned benefits, and I'll give you numbers for those. As I have said previously, you're looking at a potential of $100,000 annual tax revenue based on the current tax revenue you see from the cottages. I think more important to me is, there's now an opportunity for 74 folks to own a little piece of our East Side paradise. At the last council meeting, we voted to table this rezoning, and I commend you for that. Thank you. I actually can't say thank you enough, because now I'm here we have improvements, and I'm excited to talk about those, and I'm glad Bill mentioned those. But I think even more important, you effectively mandated we compromise, and we have. And what I will share and what I have found, it was a much tougher journey to compromise than it was to oppose apartments. But I'm glad we're here. I'm glad for the community. I'm glad for the neighborhood. And I'm glad for Jody Anderson. I do think this is a good project. And I can speak from my personal experience over the last month with the attorneys. The developer's attorney, Bill Ola, has worked in good faith with our neighborhood, and most specifically, most of the time, a lot of time, with me to achieve compromise. As I've already described in my email to you, we've been exchanging emails about every other day. It started with a phone call the morning after. We have been hard at work, and my neighbors have been hard at work. We've held weekly meetings to get to where we are. The agreement that Bill referenced, I do feel it addresses the most prominent concerns of our neighborhood. That being kind of a loose term, including Beaumont, those of us on Adams, etc. One, it does help maintain security and privacy for the existing and future Beaumont homes and condo owners along that boundary. Two, it does help ensure that future development within Beaumont is consistent with those existing homes. Those homeowners have invested a lot and actually pay a significant amount of taxes when we talk of revenue, and I wouldn't want that to change. And then it does help maintain the current walkability of Adams Boulevard for current and future residents. So I would just say the agreement we have reached does help ensure the uniqueness and desirability of this proposed development, and I think that's key to its success. It connects it to the local amenities, Deming Park, Baszler's, the revitalized Meadows Shopping Center, while trying to provide some privacy for existing homeowners and condo owners. And finally, I think also, almost as importantly, it set an important precedent. This council is unafraid to mandate compromise. And this neighborhood is willing to deliver on that mandate when you give us the opportunity. So any future developers along Ohio Boulevard had better take note. And I do want to put Jody on notice. If you don't cut your grass, if you try taking any shortcuts, or you don't invite us to the grand opening of Park Place condominiums, you're going to hear from us. And it's been a hard-fought month, but if you ever need a helping hand or the shirt off my back, you know where I live. So, on behalf of myself and my neighbors who signed this agreement, welcome to the neighborhood. And that's, I've done my best.
I know you're getting a little tired of hearing from me, but first of all, let me be clear. I'm all for it. You know, nobody's going to get voted out of office if they vote for this. It's good for the community to see it, everything else. However, with that said, there's one thing that only the city council can do something about. I live on Poplar Street. This being built, where it's being built, will already make a problem that's already a problem worse. Now, that's still, I live there, so I don't care. But you should. Because I'm talking about safety. Poplar Street has become, for some reason, one of the busiest neighborhoods. I have lived in Terre Haute for 60-some years. When I was a child, and Poplar Street was 42, an actual highway by the state. The city had no control over it at all. It was busy, trucks, traffic, semis, and all of a sudden, I can't remember the year, well, I'm old and the memory's gone, but in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, Poplar Street suddenly became not a highway. From Furt Ridge all the way to where it ended, it became a simple street, Poplar Street. And the traffic went down immensely. Semis quit traveling there. There were times when I could go to bed at night and never hear a car go by. All that, of course, has changed over time. But in the last few years, since they've redone the Highway 46, or whatever it is, whatever that highway going to Evansville is, the traffic has not improved, it's gotten worse on Poplar Street. Now, I would say Poplar Street has, if not the fifth, it's got to be at least the sixth, if not the fifth, and it's working toward being the third busiest street in the entire city. And you guys have not done enough stoplights to control the traffic. So I'm saying for the sake of the city, for you to plan, if you're going to get this extra $100,000, and I know it's expensive to put a stoplight in, but only the city council can do this. If you could put a stoplight where it needs to be, we need a stoplight, a four-way stoplight at Fruit Ridge and Poplar to control the lights. And if you synchronize the lights, you would make it possible to cross Poplar Street safely. If you do not put that stoplight in there, eventually it's going to be a very dangerous street for anybody to cross, no matter where on Poplar Street you live. Thank you.
Mr. President. Mr. Hyde, I understand your concerns, and I guess I'm speaking out of district because I believe this is Earl's district, but I believe Earl feels the same way that I do, that if there is, if there are calls and there are problems with the traffic, there are state guidelines, and please, Mr. Ennis, if I'm speaking wrong, back me. there could be counters put out there, and I believe there has to be so many cars per hour to go through an intersection to warrant a stop light or a stop sign. Am I correct? Yes. So I believe if we do have a problem where the traffic becomes an issue out there, we can get some counters, put the counters out there, and we can see how many cars are going through per hour. If it warrants a stop sign or if it warrants a stoplight, then I'm sure that we can address that issue. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak on Special Ordinance 5, 2018?
My name is Lori Effner, and I live at 2232 Cottage Court in the Cottages. Speaking before you is very difficult for me. I'm not a public speaker, so I'm very, very nervous. But I just want to make you aware of some of the issues that we've had at the Cottages. My husband and I have lived in our condo for 11 months now. We have a dirt front yard. We don't have sod. Our mailbox is a temporary mailbox. It's a Menards bucket with a temporary mailbox on the front of it. My neighbor has a bucket. I have a picture. I didn't bring it. It's on my phone. I don't have it with me to hand it to you. It's a bucket. So I just want you to know that the trash bins have overflowed. It's filthy. It's dirty. We have dirt in our garages, on our cars, in our houses. I hope Mr. Anderson does follow through with what he has said that he's going to do. I don't think he's followed through with his promises to us. I hope that happens in this case if you pass it. I just want you to beware. I just don't know that he will follow through, but I just want you to be aware of any of those situations that might occur with the new project.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Hi, my name is Elise Levin, and I live at 335 Shen Court. I am not on board with this. I did not sign an agreement, and I think I speak for a couple of other homeowners in Beaumont. I believe the same thing, that this development is going to breed a community of people that the east side is going to regret. And I know that it's a challenging vote. However, that is a east end of town, and it's our darling child of Terre Haute. And once they start building, you can't retract it. So I would weigh heavily on the integrity of what's going to be built there. What is already there has already set a precedence. So if you're going to bring something else that is going to devalue that end of town, it's going to corrupt Terre Haute, and you'll never get it back, and you can't do a do-over. So please think about it before you just agree to something that could potentially change Terre Haute forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Councilman Nasser. I apologize. If you'd like to speak, please come on up.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Gall. I live at 42 Heritage Drive, and I do have a concern that this is going to be 74 units that will only have one opening onto a small side street. I think this will have an enormous impact over the course of time. We're celebrating the 10th anniversary of a very unexpected flood. Many of you were here. I know that there were certain areas that were very much affected by exits to the area, and that was International Village. I didn't live there, but I'm sure we all saw, those of us who were here, saw the news footage and everything about that. So 74 units with only one entrance exit, particularly in the morning and the afternoon, or if there's any emergency. I have a real issue with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
They also seem to be like they will be very close together, the new condominiums to be built there. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Stan Miles. I live at 321 Orm Court. We do appreciate all the work that Brian put into it. He's done a good job. But I echo what Elise said, and I do not support this for many of the same reasons that's already been mentioned.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeffrey Aiken. I live at 2290 Cottage Court in the Cottages. I think that it's been about a year and a half that Joe has built 35, maybe 40 units. The units are well built. It takes time to finish any project that massive. And I've seen bigger neighborhoods in bigger cities get built, not in less time. I've seen smaller neighborhoods in bigger cities get built in less time. We're waiting on sod, and it's going to be really nice when it happens. But so far, the timeline for everything that's been done, I think has been very productive and very short. When you get to the impatience of people wanting to move in before a project is ready to turn over, they sometimes have to deal with what they have to deal with. Joe's a good builder. He follows up on everything he says he's going to follow up on. We've built 3 condos in the Cottages, one that we moved out of and into a bigger one, and one for my mother. Everything has been fine. And the things that have not been finished yet, in any reasonable sense, will be finished in a reasonable time. But again, I just want to say that the type of people that are going to live in this neighborhood, if they're anything like me, I don't think you have to be afraid, because we've already set the price point of these homes. There's a demand for it. The overall revenue to the city will be a big boon. And again, the type of people that are going to buy these units are nobody to be afraid of. But I think Joe staked his reputation on the Cottages, and I think that his reputation is going to hold. His family has a history in Terre Haute of being extremely reliable builders of high-quality homes, and I think Joe's going to continue that. And I hope you approve this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I, like Stan, would like to thank Brian for the work he did.
Could you give your name and address?
And my name is Dick Wheatfield. I live at 331 Orm Court. The only thing that hurts me is that I have a nice home. Earl Elliott's been there. He went around to the back and he saw for himself how much this building of condos is going to affect me. I'm going to be able to sit on my patio and everything else and see every one of them, because it's from here to the sign where the going to be the distance of where these condos are being built. It's going to kill me and everything else. I've run into some obstacles and everything else, but I didn't get the results that I wanted as far as setback and that. I have 2 lots out there that I pay taxes on, but I'm being told I'm only going to get a setback of 25 feet on the smallest one right behind my house, and my other one on the other side, I don't get any of that 25 foot. But I can pay to put the fence up. I don't know what to do. I understand. I'm not discrediting Mr. Anderson or anything else, but everybody's looking at these condos, but you're affecting some of your longtime citizens of Terre Haute that have fine homes. And I don't think any of you on the council would like this to happen to your home. I don't know what can be done. It could be done by others have done, but I just wanted to let you know that the adoption of this, I know we need something of this magnitude for our city, but likewise, I also spend a lot of taxes in this city. I own a business, I employ 35 people, and I just can't understand that this is going to, if it goes through and everything else, it's at least going to, at a minimum, decrease the value of my house over $100,000. And that's a chunk of change. But that's a fact. And Ohio Boulevard is a nice area and everything else. Maybe if this wasn't, it's just like these condos, they're looking to put 50 gallon of water in a 5-gallon pail. And if they would just lighten up a little bit and help the citizens there that would like to stay living there some freedom of peace. It's nice to go out on our patio now where the trees are at and everything else and enjoy a nice evening. I'm not going to be able to see any trees anymore. None. All I'm going to go to see is the backs of condos. And if it happens, you won't see me there anymore. I love this city. I've lived here all my life, and I can't tell you what to do, but I do have a problem, and I don't know how it can be corrected.
Thank you.
One quick extra question. And again, there's no answer, and you'll have to look into this. From that sign to here, where he's wanting to sit, that's more than enough land and dirt. And I'm an old Boy Scout. In fact, I'm an Eagle Scout, and I've done this before. You're talking about 15 acres of woods. You're going to cut them down. Well, how about this developer, instead of cutting them all down, digging some of them up and replanting them? It's a fair question. I'd like to hear his answer.
Thank you. Would anybody else from the audience like to speak on this?
Max, 2138 Leland Avenue. What exactly is the price point of this, of these condos? I'm interested in that.
Would you like to respond?
Bill Ola responding. The range, projected range is between 165,000 and 220,000, probably an average of around 195.
Thank you. Okay, would anybody else like to speak on Resolution 7? Councilman Nasser.
Mr. Ola, this question's towards you. You know, we've been kind of going over this for almost 2 years now, what we're going to do with that property, and I love the fact that people, you know, Mr. Anderson was here last month and was passionate about using his life savings to do this development, and I think our city would be much better if everybody had the same passion of their neighborhood as the people that have been here tonight. So I do appreciate that there was compromise, but I want to make clear that who is the governing body or who would be the enforcer of the agreement if some of those agreements weren't followed? Would the city be involved, or would that be a civil matter, or what? I just want that to be clarified for the record.
The city would not be involved. It's a civil matter contract law would govern it. If either side breaches, their grievance and remedy would be through Vigo County or Vigo Superior Court.
Okay, so basically, we're still, as the city council, in charge of rezoning from R1 to R2, correct?
That's all you're doing, that's all you're allowed to do. All the other things are just private party to private party.
Okay, I yield.
Mr. President.
Councilman Nation.
I understand the frustration of the people who are most impacted by this, but I do want to applaud both parties, the people who are most affected and their representative, Brian, and Mr. Ola and his client, Joe Anderson. I realize that asking you to cooperate and find compromise is kind of an impossible task in a lot of ways. The impossible part being to get everybody to agree. But I've been through so many of these arguments over my years in public service that I firmly believe that that's the best way to try to get these things to happen. I acknowledge that this council doesn't have any kind of real enforcement role in any kind of an agreement, and but that shouldn't denigrate the fact that an agreement has been reached. I appreciate that you've all worked together, or many of you have worked together. I'll just stop there, but I just wanted to acknowledge that this has happened and thank you for actually making it happen. It's an important example that the community should take note of, especially when the next rezoning battle comes along, which none of us really knows what that'll be, but I can assure you that there will be one.
Councilwoman Crossen.
Yes, I'd like to agree with Councilperson Mason's remarks and just say that most of you have been here before, and some of you I know personally, and I really appreciate the hard work that everyone put in, particularly Mr. Ola and Mr. Payne, I know have put in extraordinary amount of work on it. And I think it's how government should help our community function and come to agreements. That said, I also wanted to say that I have, although they haven't come to council meetings, I've had more than a handful of calls from people who are already your East Side neighbors, but who are no longer going to be able to stay in their family homes that many of them have been in for decades, but want desperately to continue to live on the East Side and see this as a real promising thing for them. These are all people, I think, at least those of you in the group that I know, would be proud to call neighbor. And in many cases, I think you already are pretty close to being able to do that anyway. So if this comes to pass, I hope you will keep that in mind, that the people who are going to want to live here are, you know, people live in all kinds of housing. Really good people live in all kinds of housing. And so I just hope that you will keep in mind that those people who are going to come here, it's going to be their neighborhood too, and they're going to want it to be a lovely place to live, and I think it will continue to be. So I hope that is of some help to you, and I just wanted to say that because I can tell there's still a lot of emotion in the room, and I understand why that is, but I think it's going to be okay. I yield.
Mr. President,
Councilman Nasser.
if there's no more discussions, I make a motion we approve Special Ordinance 5, 2018.
Second. It has been moved by Councilman Nasser and seconded by Councilman Garrison that we approve Special Ordinance 5, 2018. Roll call vote, please.
Councilperson Aller.
Yes.
Councilperson Azar.
Yes.
Councilperson Crossen.
Yes.
Councilperson Elliott.
Yes.
Councilperson Garrison.
Yes.
Councilperson Morris.
Yes.
Councilperson Nation.
Yes.
Councilperson Nasser.
Yes.
Councilperson DeBon.
Yes.
That's 9 yes.
Special Ordinance 5, 2018 passes. Next item, please.
General Ordinance 2, 2018, amending City Code, Chapter 8, Article 5, Section 8-124 through 8-125, work within the public right-of-way.
Petitioner.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Aller. Yes. If we could quiet it down a little bit, please, we'd appreciate that. Thank you. Councilwoman Aller.
I guess I'll take the lead on this with help from legal. Okay. I had a petitioner or person come to me with a problem, and with a dumpster being parked on a road. And with it being parked on the road and parking on the other side of the road, it was causing problems. The dumpster had been there way over a year, and so it was causing problems. So I contacted legal. Nothing was on the books, but there had been something drawn up, I believe, before even Eddie was city attorney. So we pulled it out, and we went to file it. Well, after we filed it, there's some things we want to work through. So I'd like to do a motion to withdraw, to be able to bring it back and get some of the stuff that needs to be corrected in there. My main purpose wasn't for a permit. It wasn't for, to cause problems with commercial buildings or anything like that. It was, and I understand a lot of property owners, when they're roofing or whatever, they can't put the dumpsters in their yard. And to be on the street is fine, but I think we need to have some kind of limit, some kind of term to protect the other homeowners to be able to get down the street, have access down the street. So that was my main purpose of this. I'm going to work with Eddie and legal, and we're going to change the things we need to change and work through some of the stuff, and then I'll bring it back here in probably a couple months. So I don't know if we need to do public comment, or if we don't, I can make a motion to withdraw.
I was going to ask if the petitioner's
The petitioner's requesting to be withdrawn, and I guess technically I'm the petitioner in this. It will be coming back. If anybody has any questions or concerns, I just ask they contact my office as we work through this. I'm hopeful in the month or so we'll have a new ordinance put together that addresses some concerns that have been brought up. So I think you can take action on the motion to withdraw.
Okay.
And I second that too. I mean, I'd be willing to, anybody that has questions or wants things changed or whatever, I'm more than willing to listen to. So with that being said, I guess I make a motion to withdraw.
Second.
It has been moved to withdraw the General Ordinance 2, 2018 by Councilwoman Aller and seconded by Councilman Nasser. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is withdrawn. Next item, please.
Special Ordinance 7, 2018, rezoning of property located at 3751 East Margaret Avenue. Area planning gave a favorable with conditions recommendation.
Petitioner.
Good evening, Mr. President, fellow members of the council. My name is Richard Shagley. I'm here tonight representing the petitioner on this, and that's Wilton Armstrong. This is part of a project that I've been in front of you 2 other times before. This is for a possible John Deere dealership, or it will be for a John Deere dealership. This piece of property is attempted to be acquired to assist with the current entrance to this property that's going to be used is sufficient for the owner of Westside Tractor. Unfortunately, there's a row of trees that's on my client's land that will need to be removed if this isn't approved, which is going to be very detrimental to our neighbor to the east. By allowing this rezoning, it will allow for the entrance to this facility to be moved to the west. Not only will the trees not be able to be removed, but the other issue is there is the property owner to the east, their driveway is, it's either on the property line or it's encroaching upon my client's property. So there's going to be, without this piece of property, there's going to be it's going to be detrimental to the neighbor to the east. Fortunately, this property became available. The petitioner is wanting to sell it to B3 Partners, which owns the property behind it and to the east of it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak on Special Ordinance 7, 2018? Council.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Aller.
if there are no further questions, I move to vote on Special Ordinance 7, 2018 as presented.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved to vote on Special Ordinance 7, 2018 by Councilwoman Aller and seconded by Councilwoman Crossan. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we can vote on that.
For discussion, please, if I could.
Councilman Garrison.
Sorry. Mr. Stagley?
Yes.
Have you talked to any of the neighbors around there? Anybody, is everyone in favor of this, or?
So, at last night's area plan,
The only reason I'm asking is since we're voting on this time.
Sure. 2 months ago, at area plan, when we went in front of them for a subdivision, the neighbor to the east on that I've mentioned that has the driveway that's some boundary issues. They were at that meeting. They obviously had some concerns because the drive there was going to be some problems. This resolves all those problems, not necessarily B3 Partners and the John Deere dealership, but it resolves their problems as the neighbor. Last night, an individual came who had came at the previous meeting. This property is going to be served by an existing well, and that property owner was concerned about the fact that their well may be damaged by by this development. And I think part of the concern was B3 Partners have been able to acquire more land than they need for the dealership. So their fear was a future development and use of that. Because right now, the water line stops at the apartments on Fruit Ridge to the west. And then you don't get water again until you get down by 46. So running that line is not economical for my client, the buyer of this property, or and it's not necessary because of the well. By the time, we all know what's going on Margaret, and I think with that development will come the need to do the line. So eventually, if there ever is an issue with this well, and it causes problems with the neighbor, I think it'll be resolved by the water line finally being installed. So those are the two neighbors that have complained. One about the water, which we really can't foresee. We don't believe they'll be using any more water than the previous owner of the land. And then the other neighbor, they didn't show up last night because I don't think, in my opinion, they don't want anything to stop us from going through because it's so beneficial to them.
Sure, okay. Thank you, I appreciate that. We're just new at voting on these things. I just want to make sure that we're not voting before everybody gets a chance to hear it. Sounds like it's been discussed, and so I yield and continue on with what you're going to do. Ms. Aller or whoever, thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Aller.
If there's no further questions, I move that we approve Special Ordinance 7, 2018 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved by Councilwoman Aller and seconded by Councilman Nasser that we approve Special Ordinance 7, 2018. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Special Ordinance 8, 2018, rezoning of property located at 2611 South Sycamore Terrace. Area Planning gave a favorable recommendation.
Petitioner.
Good evening, Mr. President, fellow members of the council. My name is Richard Shagley. I'm here tonight representing Terre Haute Realty. I'm here tonight requesting a portion of this property be rezoned. This was the part that is currently the open space agricultural was part of a bigger piece that was divided by the new Margaret Avenue Road. This is a speculative rezoning. The owner is is attempting to lure a buyer in. One of the buyer's requirements is the rezoning. And as a result, they're here tonight asking for this property to be rezoned to a commercial, to a C3. This is, as you're aware, a developing area. Eventually, I believe this will all be commercial. And tonight, I'm asking you to rezone this property to C3 from the open space agricultural classification.
Is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak on Special Ordinance 8, 2018? Councilman Nasser?
Richard, I know last night I made your dad kind of squirm a little bit when I asked him this question. It was kind of enjoyable, make a lawyer squirm.
I'm glad you feel that way.
But anytime we talk about speculative rezoning, I just want to clarify, will this speculative potential business, will they generate tax revenue on that parcel?
I can't say, because I can't say who the potential buyer is. But as far as speculative goes, I don't think it's much of a speculation that all this area is going to be commercial. It's a matter of time.
So will it generate tax revenue for the city?
I can't comment on that because I can't comment as to the potential buyer of this property. Because that too is speculative.
Mr. President, if there's no further questions, I'll move that Special Ordinance 8 be approved.
We have to,
All right, that we vote on Special Ordinance 8.
Second.
It has been moved by Councilman Morris, seconded by Councilwoman Aller, that we vote on Special Ordinance 8, 2018. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we can vote on Special Ordinance 8.
I'll move that we vote on Special Ordinance 8, 2018.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Councilman Morris and seconded by Councilwoman Aller that we approve Special Ordinance 8, 2018. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, it passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Resolution 6, 2018, designating Erie Canal Road from East Margaret Drive to East Davis Drive as Officer Rob S. Pitts Memorial Way.
Petitioner.
President DeBon, members of the council, John Plasky, Chief of Police. I'm asking you with this resolution to rename or dedicate a section of Erie Canal from Margaret to Spring Hill as Rob Pitts Memorial Way, as we have the other officers, deputies, and firefighters that lost their lives protecting this community. I'll answer any questions you may have. I will further say that there will be no cost to the city. Donations will take care of the cost of the sign, other than the street department employees hanging that. And if I need to reimburse them for that, I'd gladly do so.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak on Resolution 6, 2018? Council.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Aller.
There's no further questions. I'd gladly like to make the motion to approve Resolution 6, 2018.
Second.
Do we have to? No. Okay. Resolution. Okay. Got it. Okay. It has been moved to pass Resolution 6, 2018 by Councilwoman Aller and seconded by Councilman Morris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 6 passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And before we have somebody move to adjourn, I want to remind everybody that we do have a special meeting next Thursday at 5:30.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved to adjourn by Councilwoman Aller and seconded by Councilman Nasser. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for showing up this evening.